बिल्कुल सर, आ जाते हैं।
हाँ, थोड़ा अगर आप बाहर जा रहे कर रहे आपको कन्वीनियंट है तो
कर दिया साहब, अभी स्टार्ट कर दिया थोड़ा।
हाँ हाँ।
Good afternoon, Mr. Ravi Kiran.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, all of you.
Yes, sir. I'm Ritesh Mittal, sir, Chairman of GST.
Oh, okay. We spoke.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I am Ramakant Inani, President of FTCCI, sir.
Yeah. Namaste.
Now you are stationed in Delhi, sir?
Yeah. Yes.
Good afternoon, Mallikarjuna ji.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ritesh ji.
How are you?
Yeah, doing good.
You're wearing a mask in public place, huh?
I'm in client's place, actually.
Okay. Good afternoon, Richard.
Good afternoon, Ritesh.
Good afternoon, Tirmalai, sir.
Good afternoon, Ravi Kiran garu.
Good afternoon, Andy. Gupta garu.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. Nice to see you here.
Yes, sir. Again, connecting virtually.
Yeah, true.
So, Mallikarjuna, you are looking in a very dark zone.
Yes, sir. There is some power outage at the client's place. So I'm just, let me see if I can.
I hope there is internet.
I think so now it should be a bit better. No. Yes.
Now it is better.
Now it's better, right?
Much better.
Yeah.
So today we are having back-to-back programs, sir, on GST, Mr. Ravi Kiran, sir. One is e-invoicing on GST.
Okay.
And then 5:15 on this one, quarterly.
URMP. Okay.
So in fact, there what happened is we thought of combining it, but there they were comfortable with only Cisco WebEx.
Okay. So you want to change the platform?
Yeah, they're changing the platform also. That's how it's going. So both the technical changes are coming in GST, sir.
Yeah, I mean, going forward, there will be more tech-related changes.
Tech-related changes, yes.
I thought already more. Furthermore, is it?
No. In the sense, the technological transformation is there in all fields nowadays, and taxation is no exception.
Correct.
So that way, I'm telling that going ahead, we need to gear up, and that's what I'm doing.
Correct, sir.
You have to wait and watch because after 3B, this is the next experiment. So you're rolling new returns and all those things.
Yes.
The problems that prevailed during those 6 months in 17, if they don't occur now, then well and good, I think.
Irshad ji, the challenges what we had in 17, the first 6 months, right? Those are no longer seen, technically speaking, now.
No longer?
No longer seen. Taxpayers are not facing that hassles again.
Because GSTR 1, 2, and 3 is not there.
No, 1, 2, 3 is not the separate story. We used to have that portal hanging and all that, right? Now that is not the right. They have made it as a standard, and then the concurrent users also have been increased double, 1.5 lakhs to 3 lakhs.
Yes, indeed. In fact, we have crossed that stage long back. The portal, technical glitches, and all those things.
They have been fixed almost more or less now.
Yeah. It's all about how people are comfortable with using this advanced technology.
Yes.
Implementing that advanced technology in their businesses.
Only consumption is the challenge now.
Correct. In fact, this thing is good. Like, we are implementing technology in a phased manner. Initially, it's like up to 500 crores, now 100 crores. Because overall, if this thing of e-invoicing is successful, it's majorly like GST or one data is being uploaded.
Right.
Overall, in a nutshell. So this way, implementing technology in a phased manner. This is better rather than implementing to the entire,
No, the point is, even GSTR 1, 2, and 3 was successful at that level. And pretty much successful in large industries.
Okay.
We have to wait and watch and see what happens to the sector which is below 100. And I think above 100 also it will be successful. But below 100 is the issue.
Okay.
So although in terms of value, they don't contribute much. Value is not the only criteria, isn't it? Because their survival is also equally important for large scale sector.
Yes. So, Madam Lakshmi, Madam, can we start it? It's 3 o'clock.
Are we expecting a few more?
Sir, the number of
you can wait for some time, no issue.
Okay, sir. So we have around 62 participants, sir, presently. We'll wait for 5-10 minutes, 3-4 minutes more, sir.
Sure.
So, Ravi, sir, you are from Hyderabad, sir?
Yeah, I am from Andhra Pradesh. I did my B.Tech and all in Hyderabad.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with Hyderabad and I can speak Telugu, and now many people, many audience may be from Telugu.
Yes.
Encourage them to ask questions also in Telugu.
Okay, excellent, sir.
But of course, those joining here will be definitely knowing English, but if they prefer, we can encourage them to ask also.
Sometimes tough questions originate from Telugu language. Using Telugu language.
Good afternoon, sir. My voice is audible?
Yes, madam.
Can we start or we will wait?
We can start, madam, now.
Huh?
Yes, we can start, madam. We have 70 participants. We'll start.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
I welcome all of you to this webinar on e-invoicing and the GST. I extend my warm welcome to today's speakers, Ravi Kiran Garu, Edara from Vice President GST in New Delhi, and Mr. CMA Mallikarjuna Gupta, and our President Sri Ramakant Inani, President FTCCI, and Sri Ritesh Mittal, Chair GST and Customs Committee, and Muhammad Irshad Ahmed, the co-chair of GST and Customs Committee, and participants. I request Sri Ramakant Inani, FTCCI FAPC, to give his welcome address.
Thank you, Lakshmi Garu. Sri S. Tirumalaiji, Advisor, GST Committee of FTCCI and past President of FTCCI. Today's speakers, Sri Ravi Kiran, Edara, IRS, Vice President, GST Network, New Delhi, Mr. Mallikarjuna Gupta, CMA, that is Cost Accountants, Hyderabad, Sri Ritesh Mittal, Chair, GST and Customs Committee, FTCCI, CA Muhammad Irshad Ahmed, Co-Chair, GST and Customs Committee, FTCCI, participants. The first phase of e-invoicing was implemented from 1st October 2020 for taxpayers with an aggregate turnover exceeding rupees 500 crores. And from 1st January 2021, that is next month onwards, same will be extended to businesses with an aggregate turnover exceeding rupees 100 crores. Ultimately, the government plans to bring all businesses under the scope of e-invoicing from 1st April 2021. This compliance aims to make invoice reporting an integral part of a business process and remove the tedious task of invoice compilation at the end of return period. The system will change the face of business process for all outward supplies and enterprise software for businesses. The basic object of this webinar is to create awareness for upcoming dealers and for existing dealers can clarify their doubts. Sri Ravi Kiran Garu has offered to clarify the doubts even in our vernacular Telugu language. We are grateful to him. I am sure that the deliberations will enlighten us on e-invoicing process flow and its impact on GST compliances. Thank you.
Actually, madam, you are not able to hear you.
Okay, there may be some problem at the FTCCI and so according to the schedule, Mr. Ritesh Mittal, please take it forward.
Thank you, Mr. Ramakant Inani, President FTCCI. I thank first of all our speakers, Sri Ravi Kiran Edara, IRS and Vice President of GST Networks, and Mr. Mallikarjuna Gupta for giving their valuable time and enlightening the members on the subject of e-invoicing. Our committee members and co-chairman Muhammad Irshad and our advisor Sri Tirumala Garu and our participants for coming to this program. And as part of the GST and Customs Committee of FTCCI, it is our endeavor to organize various programs on the topics of GST and Customs for the benefit of members and including the awareness programs whenever there is a major change in policy, act and rules, and to represent the various issues of the industry and members to the government. And in this present quarter, we have seen that the e-invoicing and quarterly 3B with monthly payments are the major change in the GST system. So today we are organizing two programs as per GST Customs Committee back to back. So the first program is the topic of e-invoicing, which we are having. And there is a second program on 5/15 today, which is in association with FICCI. And there the topic is quarterly return filing and monthly payments scheme under GST. And Srimati Mallika Arya, IRS Chief Commissioner of Hyderabad, GST and Customs, will be taking the program. We will be sharing the program link on the chat box. Members can attend, requested to attend the program in a continuous. Because the platform was different, so we are having two different programs. That's the issue. So with this, in fact, I would say, though in 2017 we couldn't make it, but now what I see is the overall platform, the expectations of the GST is going to come. In fact, I would say it takes technology to implement, it takes time. In fact, I would say 2005 the TDS was started, but the entire process to streamline it took more than 7 to 8 years. 2013 it was streamlined, and by today if we see the TDS process is totally complete. So in fact now the GSTN has only taken 3 to 4 years, and next to 1 year I would expect that the entire process of GSTR 1, 2, 3, which was the overall the idea of government bringing the system so that every credit goes through technology and there's nothing called as paper, or this concept of bogus billing will go away. This is the benefit which we should get in the through the systems, and what I see is probably maximum 1 year the entire system will be in place. And we thank the GST network for working on this on a continuous basis, and I thank Sri Ravi Kiran ji for giving his valuable time and enlightening us on this subject, sir. So thank you so much, sir. And over to the Lakshmi madam.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I request Sri Irshad Muhammad, co-chair of GST and Customs Committee, to introduce Sri Ravi Kiran Garu.
Thank you, madam. Good afternoon, everybody. It's my privilege, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Ravi Kiran, who is a Indian Revenue IRS officer with the Government of India and having 14 years of experience in implementation of customs, GST or VAT laws in India. So he is presently Vice President in Goods and Service Tax Network, GSTN, which we call it as a common portal. So he is the key member behind that portal and all the technologies that is going on now. And previously he has worked with in Karnataka in Mysuru GST Commissionerate as a joint commissioner, and he did his Bachelor of Technology from Hyderabad, and he has achieved a merit certificate in National Academy of Legal Studies and Research, Nalsar University, Hyderabad. So Mr. Ravi brings with him the blend of both the law, legal experience, and as well as the technology experience. He has keen aptitude and expertise in IT projects. So with his immense experience, I hope the participants will take benefit and ask as much doubts and as much questions as possible, because even in e-invoicing, there are certain intricacies. Like, for example, more than 500 crores, companies could be well organized, but 100 crores and above, still I would say, take a scenario where you have a head office where invoice generation is centralized, or it may not be centralized, invoice generation is decentralized, and they have an office, they have another godown, factory, or warehouse. Prior to e-invoicing, presently, the invoices are generated at godown or the factory location. So the people who are generating the invoice, they don't operate the accounting system. So in these cases, whether the e-invoicing tool or the e-invoicing technology that is available now, will it support this setup, or do you have to bring certain organizational changes within the company so that you will be able to generate the e-invoices? And similarly, van sales. As an example, in van sales, what happens? You carry the stock, and the salesperson would be selling the stocks at the factory or the at the doorstep of the shop. So you don't expect them to raise e-invoice on the spot. So in those cases, how you can generate the invoice, or what mechanism you have to put in place, or if there is no solution in e-invoicing area, whether the organizational setup has to be changed, and then you have to give undue importance to issue of debit notes and credit notes, and the mechanism of generating those credit notes and debit notes, and also simple amendments versus cancellation, because if there is a small error in invoice, so do you have to all the way go and cancel the invoice, or is there any mechanism to make those amendments? You can keep note of all these observations and ask as many as questions as possible, because recently, now next session, you have this quarterly return session where there is an IFF facility. In IFF facility, the invoices can be generated by the taxpayer. Whether this e-invoicing will also push those invoices in that IFF facility or not is the question. And also another important area is training, because there could be currently an accountant come IT or administration manager who is handling all the activities. So in that case, while implementing this e-invoicing, do you have to involve an IT guy or IT person, a third person, or your internal organization? So what kind of technical support is required for implementing this e-invoice? These are all some important questions or issues that needs to be looked into it before implementing. So I congratulate FAPSI for organizing this timely and very valuable session. And I hope all the participants will take undue benefit of this session and from vast experience of Mr. Ravi Kiran. So I welcome you, Mr. Ravi Kiran, and all the best from my side. Thank you so much.
Now I request Sri Ravi Kiran Garu to address the participants.
Yeah, Andarki Namaskaram. A very good evening to all the participants today. And in fact, I would like to, at the outset itself, I would like to congratulate the Telangana Chamber of Commerce for organizing this sort of webinar, which will go a long way in creating awareness among taxpayers. And from GSTN, we are very keen to be part of these types of outreach sessions. And I was very glad when they approached me for this. And e-invoice, that is the topic today. As you all know, invoice is the primary document, both for taxation purpose as well as it acts as the evidence of transaction between two parties. And e-invoicing is going to transform not only the way the tax compliance is going to change to the taxation department, but also the delivery method of invoice itself may go a significant change. How it will be, we will see a bit later. And from 1st January onwards, almost 100 crore plus taxpayers are coming into they are getting onboarded to start invoicing. And to give you few quick statistics, in October, there are about 5 crore invoices were generated. And in the month of November, around 6 crore invoices were generated. These are generated by around 5,000 plus PANs, means 5,000 plus taxpayers were generating these so far. And there are a few hundreds more in 500 crore plus bracket. Most of them we did a small study. Almost all of them are either exempt or dealing only in B2C supplies. So the point I'm making is that the onboarding percentage is highly satisfactory as far as the 500 crore plus are concerned. And we also saw that a majority of the IRN generation and also the number of GSTINs generating IRNs, a large percentage, I can say almost close to 80% are through GSPs, GST Suvidha providers. You know, that is one of the ecosystem partners facilitated by GST network and the government to act as a easy channel of access to the GST system. And presently, if you see, as on date, almost close to 32,000 plus GSTINs are generating the IRNs on a regular basis. And we have published many awareness material on the public domain, especially if you ask me what is the single most important document, which I don't have much time. Please tell me one document. I want to be thorough in e-invoicing. So that is the FAQ document which we have published. Maybe after my talk, I will just put that link on the chat box so that you can, those of you who have not yet laid your eyes on it, can refer to it. So it has everything, almost close to 100 questions are given on various aspects or various stages of the e-invoicing process. Then we held many webinars which are already on public domain and whose video recordings are already available in on the YouTube GST and YouTube channel. I request you to go through them. In fact, many of those videos are prepared by me only, because at the time, due to COVID, we didn't find a very professional video makers. So I took the initiative to make some basic FAQ and other awareness videos. I request you to go through them. So as there is a lot of material already available on public domain, today I thought I will address some aspects which are not sufficiently highlighted in various media or public domain. And also we have Mr. Gupta ji, who even wrote a book on e-invoice recently released. And he is there to explain you what are the factual and procedural aspects of the e-invoicing. And if we see the global scenario of e-invoicing in Latin American countries, that is the majority of South American countries, they have implemented it long back. And they mostly concentrated on the aspect of reporting to the government portal, or reporting to the government, reporting invoices to the government and clearing them on a portal. And if you see e-invoicing in countries like European Union, or off late in Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore, and even Malaysia, latest edition. So these countries, what they have done, they concentrated on paperless or digital exchange of invoices between two trading partners, means suppliers and buyers, almost digital, no paperless. The invoice will just go from one finance system to another finance system. Here we are not talking about invoice being in paper copy, invoice in email sending to the buyer by email. It is not the paperless thing that we are talking about here. The paperless to the extent that two accounting systems of the businesses will be talking to each other and exchanging the invoice data in a standard format. This is what EU has done. So let me tell you, in India, what we have done is we have combined the benefits of both Latin American and as well as EU. Why I'm telling Latin American EU is that these are the two basic approaches world over, if you see. In India, what we have done, we have made the reporting mechanism, that is uploading the invoice details into the portal and getting IRN. And secondly, we are taking the entire invoice data, means entire commercial invoice data we are taking, and the portal is having it as a single source of truth. So a single source of truth, the entire invoice data is there with the government. So what is the advantage of this? This invoice, the whole commercial invoice, can be can be exchanged with the counterpart. There can be different approaches to that. So digitally from one system to another system, this invoice can travel digitally. So how it is happening? Because we are not taking only tax relevant data. We are not taking only the subset of tax data relevant for GST R1. No, we are taking the entire invoice, entire commercial invoice data. So it is going to be possible, whatever is the method that government will be examining, we will be putting in place sometime soon. So the entire invoice can get transmitted into another system. This we can loosely call as B2B electronic exchange of invoices between two finance systems. So this is already there in EU, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand. Of course, there it is done through a secure network called PEPAL. And that is the one you can call hybrid or a very great design of Indian e-invoicing. Secondly, what is the rationale of e-invoicing? Many people are thinking that e-invoicing means we have to upload invoice data into a portal and obtain a IRN number. Yes, as per law, if you see, this is the thing. And also perhaps while issuing invoice, you have to put a QR code on the invoice copy, which will in turn contain the IRN. If you see the legal provisions and if you see in a limited sense, this appears to be the e-invoicing is all about, but no. Just now I told you that this B2B electronic exchange of invoice, digital transmission of invoices between two different finance systems, that is one of the upcoming benefits. And there is more. If you see the recent announcement of Finance Secretary, he talked about in future, this e-way bill and even returns are going to change a lot. E-way bill may be phased out in due course, but now it is there because e-way bill, as you know, it is only for goods and only for a particular value. So immediately it may not be done, but the government will take a decision on e-way bill. And also the returns, the way the returns are going to be filed, the ease with which one can file returns is going to change a lot. Now already the auto population of GSTR1 has started from December 1st. Presently it is on a T+2 basis. That means the IRN or the e-invoice details uploaded on December 1st, the taxpayers are able to see them in their GSTR1 on 3rd of December. Almost on a T+2 basis. We'll be making it T+1, and in future, we will make it as in a near real-time basis. It means within a gap of few minutes, you'll be able to see the reflection of e-invoice details into your GSTR1 as well as 2A for the respective buyers. And I was telling you about invoice-based lending. If you see the recent Finance Secretary's press release, e-invoicing is going to give a boost to invoice-based lending. It is a great opportunity and great benefit for small and medium enterprise in India. For them, the key problem faced is the absence of ready credit. Most of the credit in India now is asset-based, and the flow-based credit or the invoice acting as collateral, that is going to change the landscape shortly. And e-invoicing is going to give a great fillip to that aspect. And you know the platform TREADS. Many of you would have heard that platform, Trade Receivables E-Discounting System. So this is the platform set up by RBI so that especially small and medium businesses can almost trade their invoices on this platform. And there are financiers who will be financing them at a competitive interest rates. And the supplier, at the strength of that invoice itself, will get ready credit into his bank account. These things are happening. And you know, you might have heard about account aggregator framework, again set up by RBI and some set of institutions, where the data will be seamlessly exchanged between the financial information providers, like especially GST is going to be such information provider, and also some intermediate entities like banks or even NBFCs. Those are regulated, licensed by RBI. They are going to act as consent managers and going to pull the data from securely from the information providers like GSTN and transmitting the data very securely in an encrypted form to the financial information receivers. That receivers can be banks. Even banks presently, when some business comes to their premises asking for a loan, they don't know about him. It may result in bad debts, NPAs. So the banks have to do a lot of due diligence before giving the loans to aspiring small businesses, especially small and medium businesses. Now, how the banks will know the GST compliance profile of a taxpayer, and whether a particular invoice brought by taxpayer to their to the bank is real or not? Is it fake? And it is already provided to some other bank and took loan also? It is possible. So all these things are now a lot of digital transformation is happening in the fintech as well as this financial domain. And e-invoicing, as I told you, that a single source of truth. Now the government will have the data of all the invoices, especially B2B and export invoices. So the government has the data. And even you know that the banks will be financing based on export invoices also. There are several exporters in India who are in need of finance. So these export invoices also are brought under this e-invoicing. So tomorrow, this information also securely, digitally will be going to different stakeholders. And I'm giving you, whatever I'm giving you, these use cases are only few and indicative. They are not exhaustive. So the moment we mature upon this e-invoicing model, there is a lot of things are going to come and they are going to transform. And all these things are not tax related. I'm sure you have appreciated that. Tax reporting and compliance becoming easier, and the reporting becoming part of the supply chain. All these things are incidental benefits or initial benefits. But going forward, there are several use cases e-invoicing is going to bring. And I'm very happy to share with you, even the Singapore authorities have recently contacted GSTN and the TREDS platform to know how the TREDS platform is evolving. Through e-invoicing, even Singapore is now wants to facilitate a similar platform in Singapore for their businessmen on the lines of TREDS. They want to know how India has implemented it. So that way we are moving ahead. And coming to the e-invoice legal provisions, I'm sure you would have already gone through them, but some of the legal provisions I will just outline to you so that you will appreciate the legal nuances. The first and foremost is the select taxpayers, whoever are notified as per the notification. What the law says is that they have to report or they have to upload their invoice details in INV01 to a portal and obtain an invoice reference number. That is the unique reference number given by the portal. And the law also says if any taxpayer to whom this e-invoicing applies, if you don't follow this process, that is uploading the details into the portal and getting an IRN and the QR code which contains that IRN has to be printed on the invoice. So this is the core of e-invoicing process. If somebody doesn't follow this process, the law says that the document is not an invoice at all. It's very crucial. The law doesn't say the invoice is invalid, the invoice is not valid. No, the law says it is not an invoice at all. Means it is not a tax invoice under section 31, that is before the eyes of GST law. So even the rule 36(2) relates to relaxation in terms of availing credit based on the ingredients mentioned in the invoice. That also may not help in availing the credit. So that is the first aspect. Secondly, many people are thinking that e-invoicing there are substantial provisions have changed. No. E-invoicing is a simple requirement whereby government is saying that these set of taxpayers, of course with these exceptions, in case of B2B and exports, have to obtain a IRN and quote it as part of QR code on the invoice copy. Except this, the e-invoicing has not changed any other provisions of GST law, whether it is the time of supply, whether it is the the time when you have to issue your invoice, nothing has changed. So many people are asking, sir, we are doing this, shall we issue e-invoice or not? The answer is only one. If you are issuing invoice or credit note or debit note under section 31 or 34 of the GST Act, you have to issue e-invoicing. Though we are calling e-invoicing, it includes the documents of credit and debit notes also. And of course, earlier there was a provision of issuing invoice in duplicate and triplicate. Now it is not there. For wherever e-invoicing applies, that requirement is done away with. And many are asking or even worried about an aspect that whenever internet is down or there is a shutdown of internet in some areas due to law and order situation, or some units may be running in the remote areas where the connection may not be very great. So what to do? Our business may come to standstill. So keeping these things in view, the government has already given a relaxation in terms of the commissioners. The commissioners have the localized power, localized authority to give relaxation in some cases where there is where the taxpayers or a set of taxpayers faces this problem. So that is also addressed. But of course, like in GST system also, we have increased the number of concurrent users to 3 lakhs. Earlier it was 1.5 lakhs. So in the same way, a robust infrastructure is already put in the form of invoice registration portal, e-invoice portal, to give uninterrupted availability. But in case of any likely failure or something, there will be multiple IRPs will be set up to ensure high availability. And one more thing I want to emphasize. Earlier, the legal stipulation was that the turnover threshold in a financial year, if you see the notification, it says the wording used is that those taxpayers who are having a turnover, aggregate turnover of say so and so amount in a financial year was there earlier. But on September 30th, there was a notification and amendment was made in which those words are made into in any preceding financial year since 2017-18. That is since the advent of GST, or at least that financial year. Whoever is having the turnover of more than the prescribed amount, they have to do e-invoicing. Earlier, in a financial year means, for example, today, in the middle of the financial year, if my turnover exceeds 500 crores today, for example, so from tomorrow onwards, I have to do e-invoicing. It was the stipulation earlier, but now it is changed. Means in any of the preceding financial year means, for example, in this financial year, today, if I have crossed the turnover threshold, I can do invoicing from the 1st of April 2021. That dynamic thing is not there. And also, once I start invoicing, I will continue to do invoicing. Once in, no going out. This is also clear in the latest amendment. This also I wanted to clarify. And one more major thing is that during the movement of the goods, wherever e-invoicing applies, the carrying a physical copy of invoice is not needed. For movement of goods, as you know, if you see Rule 138 and other rules, the mandatory documents which have to be carried are invoice and e-way bill, wherever it is applicable. So now wherever e-invoicing is applicable, you need not carry the physical copy of invoice. If you show the QR code to the officer during the road checks, the proper officer may ask, where is the invoice? So you can show the QR code on a digital device also, so that he can verify using his own mobile app whether that invoice is duly reported on the system or not. So it is like when we go to airports, nowadays we are not showing the paper copy of the ticket. So we will just show, we will take our mobile phone and show either the digital copy of the boarding pass if we have already taken, or otherwise the electronic copy of the ticket. So in the same way, that also has been simplified. And e-way bill is going to continue for some time. I was also mentioning earlier, some people are asking when e-way bill will be phased out. The government will take a decision at an appropriate time. So once the e-invoicing is extended to below turnover also. And one more important aspect is, if I don't do e-invoicing, what will happen? In this regard, I would advise you to read section 122 of the CGST Act. If you see section 122, there are several provisions. For example, if there is no invoice, if somebody makes a supply without invoice, what will happen? And if you see section 122, subsection 3 and clause E, I think. So there you have a specific provision. If someone fails to issue invoice in accordance with this law or the provisions made thereunder, what is the penalty? I think it is up to 25,000 rupees as on date. So these kind of specific provisions are there. But of course, let me tell you this, that there are several provisions about the invoicing. For example, there is one provision which says that if the documents and records are not kept in accordance with the law in the business premises of the taxpayer, then what is the penalty? So these kind of things are there. And as I told you, wherever e-invoicing is applicable, and if you don't follow the invoicing process, it is not an invoicing at all. That means, so it can be taken as you have done a supply without invoice. So the officers may be taking different interpretations, which we are not going now. But what I am telling you is, in section 122, there are several provisions relating to invoices and documents and records. I request you to go through them so that you are sensitized about any lapses on account of e-invoicing. And one more thing asked by many people is that I am not supposed to do e-invoicing. I have less turnover, but my GSTN is appearing as enabled on the portal. So let me tell you, enabled, this you will be, I mean, those whoever is dealing with the invoice, definitely you'll get this question perhaps, that what we have done is, for example, government has told that e-invoicing will be compulsory for 500 crores and above from October 1st. What GSTN has done is, we have, as per the GST system, whoever has the 500 crores and above, all the list of such taxpayers we have given to the NIC, who is our esteemed service provider. So they have enabled them on the portal. The purpose of this enablement is that not anybody and everybody who are interested in invoice can come and can come and register on the portal and start invoicing, because we have now a set of infrastructure to report some number of invoices. If anyone can come, it will disturb the system also. So that's why at this stage, the e-invoicing is not voluntary. It is only enabled for the taxpayers who have crossed the prescribed threshold. So because we have enabled everyone above 500 crores or above 100 crores, you may see that even the exempt units like banks, SZ units, or even insurance companies, for whom e-invoicing is not applicable, they also may be mentioned in the list. You need not bother about it. If your unit is mentioned in that, your buyer may also ask, see, your name is figuring on the GST portal, that e-invoice portal, that you are enabled for e-invoice. Why are you not generating e-invoice? Please don't bother. We have given a clear disclaimer that it is based on the data available in the GST system. Even after such enablement, the taxpayers has to register separately and then they have to start e-invoicing. This enablement is only to ensure that only those taxpayers who are otherwise supposed to do e-invoicing only will come and register. It is possible that some of the taxpayers we would have missed out. Maybe there may be border cases in the GST system. The turnover is mentioned as 499.9 crores, or actually it may be 501 as per the records or as per the taxpayer. In those cases, those rare cases, there is a facility available on the portal under the registration column, e-invoice enablement. You can go there and you can voluntarily say that my turnover exceeds the prescribed threshold. I want to do e-invoicing. If someone comes like that, we are not stopping them. They will be enabled on the next day and they can start e-invoicing by registering with the portal. And coming to the end, many people are asking how amendments and cancellations will be done. By this time, you all will be knowing that within 24 hours from the time of invoice generation or IRN generation, you can cancel it. For example, today 4 p.m. you have generated IRN. Till tomorrow 4 p.m. you can cancel it altogether. But you have generated an IRN, you could not cancel it within 24 hours. And the data has already moved to GSTR1. You want to cancel it after 1 week. There is no problem. You cancel it. And upon cancellation, if you are issuing any credit note or if you are issuing any fresh invoice, you take another IRN. You report that also. And you create another IRN. And at the end of the month or the end of the tax period, whatever GSTR1 you are filing, you make all the final changes there, because that is the final declaration from your side. It is very much possible in business practices that an invoice issued today has to be amended or cancelled at a future point of time. So e-invoicing is not going to disturb that. So you may ask, what happens to the first IRN generated? So in the e-invoice, when you are filing the GSTR1, you can delete that row, or you can eliminate that whole row, and you can add whatever is the invoice you have done. If you have done another invoice, that's why in the cancellation, in the cancel IRN API as well as that option, the portal will ask you, why are you canceling it? Is it a duplicate or any other reason like that? It will ask. So there you can mention that reason also, and you can cancel it. And the point I am making is that taking a token number, taking an IRN number is almost like taking a token number. What the law says, if you are issuing a document under section 31 or 34, that is invoice, credit note or debit note, take a token number from the website and issue it. But any changes further, you again report it and take it. But here you please remember one thing. The document number reported, for example, 123, you have reported and you generated an IRN. The same 123, you can't use it again. That is common sense also, because the very IRN system, the very e-invoicing system is built upon the uniqueness of the invoice reference number. So that's why, so you can't use it again. You have to make it 124 or 125, whatever it is. Then another unique number will be, unique IRN will be generated. And there is no time window for reporting also. This is very important. Many people have a doubt that my document date is today. Can I report it after 1 month? Yes. Presently, there is no check on that. But of course, recently, the NIC has implemented a check from the 7th of December that the documents dated prior to October 1st, that is when the e-invoicing had come into place, they are being rejected, because we have seen that some people are uploading documents of 2008 and 9 also. It may be due to data entry error or something we have to investigate. So we have put that check. Otherwise, irrespective of the document date, you can upload it anytime. And the related question asked on this aspect is very important question. That is, how the GST auto population will happen, whether it is date of the document or date of generation of IR. Very important. So for this, the answer is date of document. So if the October document, October dated document is uploaded in December, if the GSTR1 is not filed, it will go into the GSTR1 of October only. If the October's GSTR1 is already filed, it won't go directly into the tables of December's GSTR1, but it will be marked separately in the consolidated Excel file that this document is dated October. We are not automatically populating it into December, but you have reported it in December. So we are giving you separately this information. You may do whatever you want to do. So this kind of auto population logic we have built. And before I end, I want to tell 1 or 2 more aspects and I'll end my talk. Many people are asking about many people are getting confused about the dynamic QR code. If you see, there is a notification 14 of 2020, dated 21st March 2020. What it says, all the taxpayers having aggregate turnover of above 500 crores in a financial year, they have to print or they have to place a QR code, which is a dynamic QR code on the invoices issued for unregistered persons. So what this essentially mean? So big companies, whenever they are doing B2C transactions, business to consumer transactions, they have to generate a dynamic QR code. And what it will contain? It will contain the payment cross reference. For example, when we go to a supermarket or at the billing counter, what the notification says is whatever amount we have to pay, the taxpayer or that business should make you available that QR code in the form of a print on your invoice, so that you can take your mobile and easily scan it and pay the amount using your UPI based mobile payment apps. So this is to encourage digital payments. In fact, on this, I'm afraid I may not be able to speak more, because GSTN is not involved in that requirement or in that project. The CBIC policy wing and also the NPCI, that is the National Payments Corporation of India, they are spearheading this project. And in this case of dynamic QR code, as you know, it is generated by the supplier system only, means the business system, he will be generating it. And the notification also says you need not print it, and if you can show it on the screen, it is enough. If you show that QR code on the digital device, for example, nowadays when we go, we have 2 computers, two screens facing, one facing the billing person and one facing the customer. So perhaps tomorrow they'll be showing that QR code on that customer screen facing the customers, and we will just scan it and pay it. Why it is dynamic? Because the amount paid or the payment cross reference is different from one bill to another. So on this, please don't go by my words, whatever I told you now. This is to just sensitize that this has nothing to do with the e-invoicing. E-invoicing is there for B2B and exports. And this dynamic QR code is there for B2C. And the only one of the reasons for confusion is that the notification was issued on the same day. And also earlier, before this 100 crores came, it was applicable to same set of taxpayers above 500 crores in a financial year. So that's why there was a lot of confusion. So I felt it is my duty here to dispel those doubts also. And shortly, I think the CBIC, the government, as well as the NPCI may be coming up with some FAQs on this dynamic QR code. And as was told in the beginning, now this e-invoicing is a slightly technocentric, or it will involve a lot of technology. So if you get to hear any technical terms or jargon like APIs or integration, ERPs, GSPs, all these things, I assure you, kindly don't worry. Your IT system people will take care of it. And you please, and of course, initially it may be a, I mean, you may have to coordinate with your tech persons to do it. Once you do it, let me tell you, it is a futuristic change you are doing to your business. And any issues on e-invoicing, whether it is testing on the trial portal, whether it is any live issue on the production portal, or whether it is API related on the API sandbox portal, any issue you can write to GST help desk. Presently, for any GST related issues on common portal, you are going to self-service portal. The same portal you can go and lodge your complaint, and it will be taken up and it will be resolved by NIC. And one question asked in the beginning was that if there are multiple, Mr. Irshadji, I think asked this, if there are multiple premises, how to generate IRN. For that, the short answer is that we can discuss later also during question answers. You can create sub-users. The main user will be one, and sub-users you can create, and they'll be in turn given the privileges to generate IRN at different places. These sub-users can be at different places. They can access the same account, like a godown or any other additional place of business, and they can do the e-invoicing. And lastly, tomorrow at 4 p.m., there is another webinar being conducted by GSTN. It is a live streamed event on YouTube. Mostly these aspects only will be covered, but any of you are interested, or if you want to share this news to your business friends, you please disseminate this information. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. on YouTube, you can see our YouTube channel for details, GSTN's YouTube channel for details. So this is all from my side. I tried to cover most of the myths surrounding or the commonly asked questions on e-invoice and why e-invoicing is there in the first place. So these things I hope I have covered. And now I'm sure Gupta ji is going to give us an illuminating picture on the what are the procedural and integration aspects of e-invoicing. Thanks a lot. Thanks again, FTCCI, for giving this opportunity.
Actually, madam, you are on mute, madam. Thank you, Ravi Kiran, for taking the detailed, insights on the e-invoicing. And on behalf of FTCCI, we thank you, sir, for taking your time and energies to enlighten us and come here, sir. It's really nice to have you, sir. The mindset of GSTN, from there we are getting the subject, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, madam. Over to Lakshmi, madam, please.
Now I request Sri Mallikarjuna Gupta garu to explain the process flow.
Thank you, Lakshmi Garu. And thank you, Ravi Kiran Garu, for such a vast elaboration, basically. What we have given is the snippet of why the government of India wants to digitalize the commercial transactions. It is again for the benefit of the taxpayers only, that we need to appreciate and get into the bandwagon of the technology adoption by the government. Lakshmi Garu, I'm not able to share the presentation. Can you just enable the presentation screen sharing? Yeah, so before I could jump into this topic, so what I would like to cover is the legal provisions Ravi Kiran Garu has already covered. I would like to cover on what are the methods we have for implementation of e-invoice in the organization, number one. Number two, does e-invoice implementation has some organizational changes to be done or not, which is precisely asked by one of our initial persons who was introduced, Ravi Kiran Garu, Irshad ji. So even that also we are going to address, and some frequently asked questions. Apart from that, I would like to show you the new provision which is being enabled on the trial portal, basically, or the sandbox portal of the e-invoicing, where if taxpayers do not have any accounting or ERP package, even those concerns are also being addressed by the government of India. So you can imagine that the government is going extra mile to ensure that there is no hardships being faced by the taxpayers. They're treating taxpayers as a customer rather than a taxpayer. In the business, we treat customers with a different aspect and to our employees to some extent a different manner. So same way, government is treating taxpayers as customers and ensuring that whatever they want, that is being provided. So when you talk about IRN or e-invoicing generation, so we have here for 3 sets of document, this e-invoice or IRN has to be generated. What are those 3 sets of document? They are tax invoice, credit note, and debit note. Of course, all of you are aware of it. Just for recapitulation, what I'm trying to tell you here is, under the provisions of GST, only the supplier of service can issue a debit note or a credit note. So if the supplier has to issue, that means if you are the taxpayer who is generating IRN, then you only can generate an IRN for debit note and credit note. If there are any financial debit notes and credit notes, which we normally issue in the course of business, for such transactions, IRN is not required to be generated. Again, there can be a cases where, as per my provisions, I have invoice come bill of supply. So that is basically given for the taxpayers who have both taxable and exempted supplies or non-taxable supplies. So even in that case also, this is not required to be issued. So IRN is not required to be issued in case of my taxable and non-taxable supplies, where we issue a bill of supply, basic invoice come bill of supply. And then we have 2 types of generation for IRN, which I'll be covering it subsequently. And before we do that, I will cover about some technical aspects, basically, which many of you must be aware of it, but for benefit of the others, which I'll be covering it. Lakshmi Garu, can you move to slide number 21?
కొంతమంది తెలుగులో చెప్పండి, ఎక్కువ మంది తెలుగులో ఉన్నారని అడుగుతున్నారు. In fact, there may be some people who don't know Telugu. That's why actually even I also didn't switch to Telugu. So then in that case, it will be an injustice, especially Hyderabad being a cosmopolitan city. So anyway, you can cover, I mean, you can slightly touch and repeat in Telugu. So Gupta ji.
Yeah, sure. Definitely, sir. Definitely, sir. Madam, slide number 21, madam.
21, sir.
21, 21, 21.
Okay, sir.
So here basically we need to understand 3-4 technical terms. Basically, one is IRN. IRN refers for invoice registration number. That is nothing but my e-invoice number. Then we have something called IRP, invoice registration portal. This invoice registration portal is place where we generate the IRN number basically. For e-invoice, we have this IRP portal. Similarly, for GST return filing, we have the GST portal. And then for e-way bill, we have the e-way bill portal. So if I need to generate IRN, we need to log into this IRP portal in case if you want to generate this using JSON or direct entry given by the government. Then we have something called API and then sandbox. So in case of large organizations, where taxpayers have large number of transactions, say 1,000 transactions, 2,000 transactions in a month. For them, they'll be using this API approach where the taxpayers ERP or the accounting server will directly interact with the department server, that is the IRP server. The connection between these two servers is established through APIs. And then sandbox. Sandbox is required for us to validate the testing before we move to the production. It is just like a test match or a test practice match in the cricket terms we call it. So in the practice match, we get used to the bowling and the pitch. Similarly, before you go to the production or the final phase where we are going to generate e-invoices, we need to ensure all the things are happening in a proper manner or not. So for that, sandbox will be used. Next slide, madam. Then for generating of IRN number, we need to consider these following aspects also. So the IRN number will be of 64 characters. So how it looks like, I'll be showing you to the subsequent slides. The IRN number is 64 characters and it is alphanumeric. So by seeing that alphanumeric number, we cannot establish for which taxpayer or which GSTN or which customer this IRN has been issued, because it uses an algorithm called SHA-256 algorithm basically. This algorithm is what is used in your digital signatures, DSC. We use this digital signature for signing off our MCA forms and then ROC forms or your GST return filing. So that algorithm is used. So the data is secure and safe. We did not worry about that. The tax invoices, again, what are issued are only for each and every financial year. The number has to be unique. So going forward, after rollout of GST, that has been clearly given in the provisions, but still we find some taxpayers containing the same series across the years. But with GST and e-invoicing coming in place together, that will become a big challenge for us down the line. And then we have also this tax invoice for debit notes and credit notes and tax invoice, this IRN has to be generated. And another important thing what we need to keep in mind is while rolling out of e-invoicing is, we normally have a practice of giving tax invoice number starting with 0. So if you have such practice in the organization, please do away with that practice from 1st of January, because if you start an invoice with 0 or hash, system is not going to validate and issue an IRN number. That is going to throw out an error message. So please make those changes. Next slide, madam. Next slide. Now, this IRN number has to be issued for what transactions? It has to be issued for my all B2B transactions. Now, when I say B2B transactions, it includes my supplies to government departments also who are having TDS registration for GST. Across the globe, we call it as B2G, but in India, we are calling it as a B2B because they are taking a registration number under GST, but for a different purpose. Then for 0 rated supplies. What are the zero rated supplies as per my GST Act? That is supplies to SEZ developers or SEZ units with the payment of tax or without payment of tax, and similarly exports with payment of tax and exports without payment of tax. Then we have deemed exports. For all these transactions, we need to issue IRN basically. Next slide, madam. So we have discussed this for the tax, for which documents this IRN number has to be generated. Next slide, madam. Now, the QR code which is generated by the IRP portal will contain the information of this basically. One is the GSTN of the supplier. Second one is the GSTIN of the customer. Then it also contains the invoice number or the tax invoice number issued by the supplier. Date of the document, I would rather say here invoice for ease of understanding, but it can be your debit note number or credit note number or tax invoice number, and the date also. Along with that, it will contain the invoice value and number of lines the transaction is having, that is a tax invoice or debit note or credit note. Then what is the HSN code of the major item or the main item? Say suppose I have 10 different lines in my tax invoice. And for all these 10 different tax invoices, I have 10 different HSN codes. Out of these 10 different HSN codes, which HSN code is having the highest value? That is picked up and shown or embedded in the QR code basically. And then we have the IRN number, that is the invoice reference number, which is generated. Next slide, madam. Yes. So we talked about APIs basically. So this APIs acts as an intermediary or interface between the taxpayer's accounting or ERP server and then the accounting, the IRP server basically. So GSTN has released 11 APIs basically. So these basic APIs will ensure that who is accessing the system, like the login ID and password that is required if you want to log into the GSTN portal. Similarly, if you want to use this APIs for generating of IRN through this API method, then we have an API called authentication API. Then we have another API called generate IRN. This API is used once the user logs in and then he has uploaded the data. That data will be used to generate the IRN. So data goes to the IRP portal. There it will do the validation and generate the IRN number. So for that, generate IRN API is used. And there can be cases where the taxpayer has to cancel the tax invoice. Now, as per the provisions of the law, there is no facility for the taxpayer to cancel the tax invoice. But you may have a question, then why in IR for e-invoice generation we have this cancel IRN? It is not technically cancelling the tax invoice, but it is helpful in cases like I have loaded the material on the truck and it is supposed to leave my factory at evening 6 today in the evening at 6. But for unfortunately, I get a call from my supplier that my customer that, sir, I don't want this material at this point of time. Can you ship it after 2 weeks? Now, what should I do in such cases? So in such cases, I will cancel this IRN number. I need to use this cancel IRN for that. Or when our departmental officer comes and does this audit, basically, that time he will ask us to cancel IRN number. Now, in the case what we are discussing, where I have to cancel this one because my supplier is postponing my order, in that case, it is always recommended to issue a credit note so that there is a control and accountability with the GST portal. Then we have fourth API called get IRN details. this will help us basically after 2 days or 3 days, what is the IRN number for a particular tax invoice number. This API will facilitate me to retrieve my IRN details based on my tax invoice number. Then we have generate e-way bill by IRN number. So this API, whenever we send the data to IRP portal for generation of tax invoice, sorry, the e-invoice, that point of time, e-way bill will also be generated automatically if part A and part B details are furnished. So this API is used to generate e-way bill. Then we also have something called get GSTIN details. As you are all aware that recently the government has announced that if the taxpayers have not filed their returns for 2 consecutive tax periods, here we are using the word 2 consecutive tax periods. So in case of monthly taxpayers, it is 2 months, and in case of quarterly taxpayers, it will be 2 periods. If they don't file it, then the e-way bill cannot be generated. So before that, we should validate whether our customer has filed his returns or not. In such case, we use this get GSTN details to validate the status of the GSTN number of the customer. Then we have the API called cancel e-way bill. So in this cancel e-way bill API, if my IRN is generated and correspondingly my e-way bill is generated, in such cases, if I need to cancel my IRN, first I need to go and cancel my e-way bill, then only I can go and cancel my IRN. So that data is used for this API used for cancellation of my e-way bill. Then we have 4 other APIs which may not be of that much importance. They are purely technical in nature, which I'll be not discussing now. Lakshmi, next slide, please. So whenever we are implementing e-invoicing the organization, there are a couple of things which we need to keep it in mind. One is the government has given us a portal. We can go and generate the e-invoice there. But at the same time, as Ravi Kiran has said that provisions under section 122 or 125 can be used for levying penalties in certain cases. What are they? Say for example, today I have generated IRN using the JSON file. I created my tax invoice, say in my accounting package tally. Then I go to the JSON, the e-invoice portal, update the JSON, generate the IRN number. I get the IRN number. I take the QR code, print it and ship it to my customer. So here it happens very perfectly. Now after 2 years, we get a notice from the department for audit. That point of time, our assessing officer will ask us, can you please share the invoice copies? Now, at that point of time, should I submit the data with the QR code or not? Ideally, we should submit the tax invoice as we have issued to our customer, that is with the QR code which contains the IRN number. So in such cases, it is recommended if user is doing through JSON method to update their accounting or ERP with these 6 aspects basically for future reference and audit trail. The IRN number, the 64 digits one, then the acknowledgement number. Whenever we transmit data from our ERP to the IRP portal, and once it is validated, the IRP server will give us the acknowledgement number, acknowledgement date, and the signed invoice and the QR code and the e-way bill details. All this information should be updated in our accounting or ERP package for future reference. So that at any point of time, if any departmental officer asks or any of our customer asks, then it will be easy for us to give this information. Now, we have already seen that all this information has to be given. So what should I do? We need to upgrade our system. Because if I generate the JSON file outside the system, generate the QR code, and my accounting entry has this tax invoice reference, my accounting or ERP package, then we cannot establish the cross reference. So we need to have additional fields to capture this IRN number in my ERP or accounting package. For future tracking also, it is required. for this particular tax invoice, what is the IRN number issued? Tomorrow the customer may ask, or the departmental officer may ask, or our internal audit team may ask for random checking when they do that. So if you don't have it, then it becomes a challenge. Compliances, as we have already discussed, under section 122 or 125, or I generate it and give it. After 2 months, my customer comes back and says that, sir, I misplaced your invoice. Can you give me a duplicate copy of the invoice? If I generate it from my accounting or ERP package, then it becomes a challenge because it does not have the QR code. Yes, we must have generated the IRN number, but the duty document for the customer is with the QR code. Because Rule 48 clearly says that any document which is not issued as per the provisions is not treated as a tax invoice. That means it cannot take the input tax credit. So keeping that in point also, we need to do that. And tomorrow department may ask for any cross clarification or anything to furnish the details of the IRNs for the invoices which have been issued. So if you don't store the data into the system, then it becomes a challenge. So keeping all these aspects, it is recommended to upgrade the system if they are large taxpayers. Next slide, madam. See, this is how next, ma'am. This is how my QR code looks like. So the QR code which is generated will have the details of all the information what we discussed, but it will be given in a string format. When we upload it into the ERP, update into the ERP, either we can update it as a string, and then when we take the invoice print, we should have a utility to convert this string into image. Or if your accounting or ERP package has a facility to store that QR code image, then you can store it, and the print program should be enabled to print this QR code also on the tax invoice. So let me touch base upon few commonly asked questions. So today, as on date, it is 100 crores. And what should be my turnover? Is it my immediately preceding financial year or in any of the financial years from July 2017? So as Ravi has clearly said that it is any of the previous financial year where we have crossed 100 crores turnover. Say in the year 18-19, my turnover is 100 crores. 19-20, it is 95 crores. And this year, because of COVID, is still 30 crores or 40 crores. So am I required to issue e-invoice? Yes, you're required to issue e-invoice because in 18-19, your turnover has crossed 100 crores. Next month. Yes. Well, back, man. Yes. Now, again, there is a common question which is being normally asked is, for discharge of my RCM liability, we are asked to make a self-declaration invoice. So even in such case, do we need to make an IRN? To the best of my knowledge, it is not required. Ravi, you can please correct it to me if I'm wrong. Then we have already discussed this. If I'm making supplies to government department and they're deducting TDS, so do I need to issue IRN for such transactions? Yes, we need to issue IRN for such transactions also. And we discussed this fifth question also. Do I need to update my IRN number in my books of accounts or ERP package? Yes, it is recommended to update the books of accounts or ERP package. Next slide, madam. Do I need to generate e-way bill for the e-invoice? Yes, as per the provisions of the law, if my vehicle consignment value is more than 50,000 rupees and distance is also meeting, then e-way bill has to be generated. As of now, this provision still exists. Going forward, it may be dropped.
One thing to add here, from 1st of January, you know that whenever there is a goods movement, e-way bill is compulsory beyond the threshold. And wherever e-invoicing is there, tomorrow what they are going to make it, you can generate e-way bill only through e-invoice. That means those taxpayers for whom e-invoicing is mandatory, they'll be able to generate e-way bill only through IRN, because IRN is already mandatory. But of course, you may ask, I generate IRN, but right now I don't want to generate e-way bill, I want to generate after 10 days. You can do it. But in that case also, you have to pull it by giving IRN as the reference. You can't generate the bill separately. I mean, e-way bill separately. This is what for the same document. So this is what the NIC has done. It was supposed to come on December 7th. So based on the representations we received, we postponed it to 31st of December. Yeah, please continue.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And again, 7th point, Ravi Kiran has already covered that basically. Do I need to carry my e-invoice copy? Not required. Forward, again, Ravi Kiran can confirm that. Initial plan was to, whenever this e-way bill is generated, the QR code of IRN is also supposed to come on the e-way bill itself. So in that way, it will save the taxpayers also to carry multiple documents. But if the QR code is shown on your mobile phone or something like that, even that is allowed.
Yeah, I mean, QR code, the requirement of mentioning QR code is there only on the invoice, because the rule 46 was amended to say that whatever QR code the portal is giving you, which in turn contains the IRN, should be placed on the invoice copy. That is made one of the mandatory particulars. But e-way bill requirement is separate. It has its own rules and its own provisions to govern its generation. So both will continue parallelly, so to say.
And can I issue e-way bill post shipment of goods or completion of services? So in case of services, e-way bill will be not there. But can I issue e-way bill post shipment of goods? Again, if you go back to the provisions of e-way bill, it says at the time of movement of goods. So it is mandatory for me to generate IRN as well as e-way bill if it is required. So do I need to generate my e-way bill separately? No, that will be generated when you are generating your e-invoice only. The next question comes is, do I need to generate e-invoice for moving goods from one premises to another premises in the same state having the same GST? It is not required. The reason here is when you move goods from one location to another location in the same GST, we don't issue a tax invoice. We issue a delivery challan. And for delivery challan, e-invoice is not required as on date. For how many hours or years I need to preserve my IRN details? Again, this goes back to my section 35, which is nothing but my books of accounts and records. So there I need to preserve my tax invoice records also till 7 years from filing of the due date of my annual return. So if you ask me, so we need to preserve this data also for 7 years after filing of the annual return. Next slide, madam.
So one more thing to add here is on NIC portal, what we are calling as invoice registration portal, once the IRN is generated, it is the responsibility or the what you call due diligence of the taxpayer to download the JSON and save it at on his system. Because if you go to the IRN portal, IRP, once you generate the IRN, it will be there only for a few days. Some limit is there on that. So we are listening to some people saying that we have generated IRN, we forgot to note it, or we didn't save the e-invoice JSON received. So what to do? So to avoid these kind of issues, what we are suggesting is IRN, actually, frankly speaking, as you know, it is only a pass-through validation portal. Means its job is to validate the data and give you back the token number, which is called the IRN, that is the invoice reference number. So its job is, frankly, since beginning we have been telling this, that its job is not to store the entire invoice data. Of course, it is being done on GST system. That's a different transmission, and that's a different central repository being maintained. But what we advise is that once you generate IRN, kindly save the e-invoice JSON. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And one more thing which I would like to bring to notice of all of you here is, except in India, wherever e-invoice is implemented, it is done on a chargeable basis. So that is the reason in overseas, they are storing the data. But here in India, as Ravi Kiran has rightly pointed out, it is only a pass-through server. Data cannot be stored there. If you recollect it few days back, people started making noise that my July 2017 return data is not visible to download from the GSTN portal. So to avoid such casualties going forward in future, it is always recommended to store it in case if you're not integrating with your accounting or ERP package on a separate server where you put a folder for each financial year, month, and GSTN wise, and your folder name should be equivalent to your tax invoice number, the naming convention. So that in future, if you want to refer it, you can pull out that information seamlessly. Or else if I ask you after 5 years, what is the IRN for this particular tax invoice number, you'll go haywire basically. So documentation physically or electronically is very, very crucial and essential for us. And it has to be done in a very systematic manner.
And yeah, as you told, maybe in future, it may be given as a value-added service also on the IRP. If not IRP, from the GST system also, it may be given through APIs also. But presently, I'm more concerned about the present scenario where it is not being given either from a GST system or something. It is your, you have to exercise that care to download that JSON and keep it for your reference.
Right, yes, sir. And now the question comes for many of us is, how do I know whether my supplier's turnover is above 100 crores or not? And how do we ensure that? Because if he does not issue an IRN, then I'm not eligible to take the input tax credit. In case if he is required to issue IRN, he has not issued it, he has shipped it with a normal tax invoice. Then will that data will flow into my 2B? Yes, based on his GSTR1 data, it will go into his 2B. But can I take input tax credit? Again, if I refer back to rule number 48, it says it is not treated as a tax invoice. That means we cannot take the input tax credit. So moreover, it is mandatory to validate it. How do I validate it? You can send letters to all your suppliers asking for their confirmation whether their turnover is above 100 crores or not, point number 1. Alternatively, NIC has given a provision on the e-invoice portal where I can go and check for which supplier based on his GSTN, whether e-invoicing is required or not. And for above 500 crore taxpayers, the list is also published in the public domain. So before you place a purchase order.
Here, I would like to clarify what Gupta ji has told. See, in fact, sorry for not covering in my presentation. I noted it, but I think I missed it. See, many people are asking the government, please give us a list who are supposed to generate e-invoice. Very straight question. This is like asking, give me a list of businesses in India who are supposed to take GST registration. No one knows. The government, the least is the government. So who is supposed to take GST registration is known only to that business based on his turnover, based on the goods and services he is dealing in, and a variety of factors. So in the same way, only that taxpayer will be knowing who is supposed to take registration. So here we have done two things. One is for the facilitation purpose, as I already told, all the entities with above 500 crores turnover as per GST system, please note this point, as per the GST 3B data, GSTR 3B data, we have already enabled them. So that enabled status, how you will know? You will just put a GSTIN and see whether he is enabled or not. Enabled, I already told, that is only to ensure nobody else will come and register. It is a closed fence. To make it closed fence, we gave enablement. That is one by one you have to search. But whoever are actually generating the IRNs, that is what are all the list of taxpayers. I told you 32,000. What is that 32,000? They are the number of GSTINs who are actually generating IRNs on the IRP as on today. That list is being updated on a fortnightly basis as of now, and maybe in future it will be updated in few days. Once in few days. So you have to. This is the second point, and third point is as a latest updation on the GST portal. There is one something called search taxpayer. Within the login of a taxpayer, if you go, there is a search taxpayer. There you can give a GSTIN and see the turnover range of the taxpayer. You can't see the entire exact turnover. If it is 492 crores, you can't see that. You will see that it is 100 to 500 crores or above 500 crores or 50 to 100 crores. Like that, a turnover range is given. So that will give you a kind of a hint whether to ask my taxpayer or not. And the second question is whether he's exempt or not. You can see that 7 or 8 exemptions. So if he's not falling in that, you have a reason to believe that your supplier may need to issue e-invoice. But that is not the final thing. You have to, as an act of due diligence, you have to check it from your suppliers. Nowadays, I heard that some people are taking undertakings from the suppliers that we are not entitled to, we are not supposed to do e-invoicing. We declare you. If you, if you result in any financial loss, we will bear you, something like that. Maybe they are doing it. So that's why these 2-3 areas are there where you can go and fetch. But I'm sorry to say that it is impossible for anyone to give you the list. Okay, these are all the 100 people who are supposed to do e-invoicing. There is a limitation in that.
Next slide, madam. So the IRP sends the QR code in a string format, and when we use our accounting or ERP package, we need to convert it into image and then print it on the tax invoice. Or if you're directly generating through the GST, that will come in a printable format and you can print it on your letterhead or whatever is the pre-printed stationery. And Part B details, can I enter after generation of my e-invoice? Yes, it is possible to update your Part B details after generation of your e-invoice. Will my e-invoice data get updated to my GSTR1? Yes, it gets updated to GSTR1, as Ravi has confirmed that to 1st of December, it is happening on T+2 basis. Going forward, it may happen on near real-time basis. Will my e-invoice data get populated into my GSTR2A or 2B of my customer? Yes, if you have downloaded the GSTR2B for the month of November, there you can clearly see the fields for e-invoice number and date in the GSTR2B invoice details. It will be auto-populated. Next slide, madam. So when you are implementing this one, basically, can I use the same tax invoice for generation of IR? No, that is not possible. There is a validation. If it is a duplicate one, the system will not allow you to generate the IR number second time. Can I change the vehicle number after generation of e-invoice for using this e-way bill also? Yes, you can go and change the vehicle number down the line in the e-way bill portal as it is. Now, again, to error, it is human. So if a user by mistake overtypes 10, then it is going to change the whole value. So what is the recourse for me in that case? It is recommended to issue a credit note to the extra value and then issue a IRN also for the same. In how many days I can cancel the IRN after generation? See, this is again interrelated to the e-way bill again. For e-way bill, I can cancel it only within 24 hours. So if I generate an IRN and e-way bill, if I need to cancel it, first I need to cancel e-way bill within 24 hours. If I try to cancel e-way bill after 24 hours, it does not allow. So same way, if it passes that period, then I cannot cancel IRN. Then correspondingly, a credit note has to be issued and then that has to be taken care. Again, the most important question which is asked is, from 1st of October under Income Tax Act, TCS is applicable. So where should I show this TCS amount for my generation of IRN basically? So this has to be mapped to the other charges field in your IRN basically. The moment you put it in the other charges field, the due consideration is given and it is accounted for you also. Next slide. So for generation of IRN, there are 133 fields without annexure, and in that 45 fields are mandatory. So whether you implement it through GST or whether you implement it through API approach, then this 45 fields has to be passed for generation of IRN, and some of them are optionally mandatory. Suppose in case if I'm doing exports, then shipping bill will come. So in that point of time, my shipping bill number is mandatory if it is an export invoice.
Yeah, if you see the absolute mandatory fields, that is only 29. That is the good news. So all the others are optional or conditional mandatory. For example, just now in the example told, if you select the export section, for example, then shipping bill will become mandatory. If you don't select that export section itself, nothing is mandatory. So like that, only 29 fields are absolutely mandatory.
And why we are given here is 45 is because this will help you to map and implement your system accordingly. Yeah. The moment I said 29 is mandatory, right? Some people may stop to capture the shipping bill.
True. And we are having live questions at the end, Gupta ji.
Yes, sir. We are having it, sir.
Okay. As we have, I'm seeing only 17 minutes are left. So
yeah.
We can.
I'll close the next 5 to 7 minutes. Then 10 minutes we can go for the Q&A basically.
Sure.
Yeah. Next slide, madam.
And I have answered some of the questions put on the question Q&A. So those of you who have asked, you may kindly see it. And all others also it is visible. You can see it.
Next slide, madam. So here, I'm giving you a small flowchart basically, how you should go for e-invoice implementation. First of all, you need to identify whether your turnover is below 100 crores or above 100 crores. If it is above 100 crores, then you need to figure out basically how many invoices you are generating it. And are you issuing the invoices manually or not? If once these two are determined, basically, if you are issuing invoices manually, then you can go to the portal, use the GST tool, and then generate your IRNs basically from that. Or if you are having an automated or billing software or accounting software ERP, then you again have 3 different methods for generation of your IRN. One is the API method, where your accounting server or ERP server directly communicates with your IRP server. Then SFTP method. Some large organizations take a judicious call that they are not going to expose their accounting or ERP data server to the third parties. So in that case, we give a separate folder where this ERP or accounting data is transferred there, and from there the API access is given. And the third option is just an upload. Even from your accounting or ERP package, if your service provider gives that, you can generate the GST and then go to the IRP portal, generate the e-invoice, and then issue to your customers. Next slide, madam. So these are the 4 methods basically. The previous slide, what you discussed is where you stand, how you issue, and how you want to issue. So these are the 4 methods for generation of e-invoice. API method we have discussed, file transfer method we have discussed, then bulk GST or single GST upload. Next slide, madam. Next slide. Next slide. Next. Yes. Now, couple of days back, NIC has issued another tool basically. Again, please keep in mind that government is listening to the taxpayers' challenges. So many of them have complained that they don't have a proper accounting or ERP package or billing software. So in that case, it becomes a challenge for us to issue e-invoices. So NIC is giving up a tool where you can create the invoice, and from there you can create the JSON and then upload it to the IRP portal, bring it back to your this tool, and then print your invoice. This facility is currently available on the trial portal basically. So once it is confirmed and there are no bugs found, it will be moved to the production portal. So here, if you see here, there are 3 steps basically. So it is telling prepare your invoice manually or enter it in the tool. Enter the details, prepare the JSON tool, log into the portal, generate the IRN, import the JSON file, and then print the e-invoice with the QR code. Next slide, madam. So this method or this tool, GEPP, what the department calls it, is preferably or can be used by taxpayers if they hardly have 10 or 15 invoices to be issued in a particular tax period. If they have more number of tax invoices, then it becomes a challenge. Next slide, madam. So after you log in, you can download this Excel utility. Then you need to create masters basically. This is how you create your supplier master. Next, madam. Then you create your customer master. Then you create, next slide, madam. Now, once you created your customer, supplier, and HSN codes, this is how your data entry screen looks for your generation of your IRN through tax invoice entry here, this GEPP. Enter the tax invoice details here. Next slide. Once you generate it, you can see the output also. Next slide, madam. Then it will take you to the Excel sheet where you need to click on the validate button. If there are any errors, it will show you the error message. If there are no errors, then you can go and prepare the JSON. Next slide, madam. Once JSON is prepared, you need to go to the e-invoice portal. Go click here on the login. And then once you log in, you need to upload your JSON file. Next step. Yes, here we upload the JSON file. Next step, madam. Once JSON is generated, you need to import it and then prepare the invoice preparation. Next step. Yes, IRN is imported into our system. Next. So here you can go and print the IRN also basically here. And this system also provides an utility to capture your customers' payments again. When they've paid the invoice or when they've paid the advances, do you want to show the advance information on your tax invoice which you're sharing with your customer or not? Next slide, madam. This is how your e-invoice looks like. This QR code is mandatory. This is the IRN number embedded, this one basically the QR code. And rest of the information will still remain the same the way you are issuing your tax invoice. Next slide, please. So here, if you want to verify whether that QR code has been generated is correct or not, you can download a mobile application provided by the NIC. And then you can validate whether the QR code is correctly issued or not, or verify the details given on the QR code. Next slide. And you, as we discussed few minutes back, you can upload it on the IRP portal using bulk application tool. Either by single JSON or multiple JSONs can be uploaded. And for that, 4 schemas has been given. Next slide, madam. Yes. Based on the requirement and based on your need, you can select any one of the 4 utilities, create the JSON and upload it for generation of IRN. Next slide, madam. And before you implement anything, you need to consider what type of implementation you are going to go approach basically. Whether you want to use the facilities given by the government, but at the same time, you need to evaluate all the pros and cons of using those systems basically, because the JSON is created. It will not update your accounting or ERP package. You need to store it separately. And storing it on a hard drive or on a machine can cause data corruption or crash also. That point of time, it becomes a challenge for you to retrieve it. So all these points have to be considered, like the number of users, network connectivity, what is the cost involved, and the complexity of the business transactions. Then a call has to be taken and appropriate method has to be selected for generation of IRN. Yes, ma'am. Can you open up for the Q&A?
Oh, thank you, sir. Now I request all the participants to raise their queries in chat box.
See, are we going to take live queries or we are going to answer only based on the... I think participants cannot ask live queries,
yes,
I guess.
Yes, sir. This is
okay,
the
okay.
platform, sir. So they will take only the question answers sections which are there, sir, in the Q&A.
Okay, I'll do one thing to take care of the time constraint. I already answered most of the questions raised in the Q&A. So I will just summarize and just run through one by one. Okay, so that others also, meanwhile, you please go on posting your queries. We will take one by one. So I'll start. Yeah, one question is asked is whether exempted goods require e-invoice. So generally in case of wholly exempt goods or nil rated goods, generally what is issued is bill of supply. So e-invoicing is not required. Then credit note generated in the month of November, but IRN is generated in the month of December. So which month will be eligible to take credit and that one. So the in the invoicing also, as I told, nothing changes as of now. Whatever as per law you have to take credit, you take that. So no linkage is built between the document date and the IRN generation date or the reporting date. So invoicing doesn't change the substantial time of supply or the time of credit getting eligible and all. Then in case we want to cancel the invoice within 72 hours, we can cancel invoice at our end and e-way bill against the same can be cancelled by our customer. However, now due to introduction of e-invoicing, once cannot cancel invoice beyond 24 hours generation, IRN cannot be cancelled after 24 hours. So can see validity, there is no validity of IRN. So I mean, there is no validity period that IRN once generated, it is valid for 24 hours, 1 month, 1 week, like that. There is nothing like that. So after this 24 hours cancellation window given, if you feel for any reason, if it is cancelled, just ignore it. There is no problem, and ensure that the same is reflected. The final position is correctly reflected in the GSTR1. So GSTR1 and your records, they are the deciding factors, or they are the final things rather than the generation of IRN on the portal. How are you coordinating with the ERP?
Sir, you can reach out to
yeah,
me.
you can answer this, Raji. Yeah.
Yeah. So Chari Garu, you can reach out to me. My coordinates are available at the end of the PPT, and FTCCI will share you. Or you can take down my number also, 99496 44633. I'll be glad to assist you on this.
Yeah, next is at present we are not able to download e-invoices generated last month or last week in Excel. Will it be enabled in MIS reports? So this is what I told. Presently, as the IRP is only a validation portal, we are giving only up to 3 days, if I'm correct. And even the API also like that only. So kindly save it in your system, and whether to give the invoice JSON download through the GST system or the IRP, that is presently under examination. So we will come back on that. So until that time, you please take the care to save all the JSON files so that it will act as a, once you save the JSON file is actually a few KB or few MB, it will be there. So once you save that machine readable file, tomorrow you can extract it into a PDF, or you can play with it in whatever way you want. So that's why saving on your system is a key thing. So unless you have a IRP or some place to store it, so please take care to store in your system. Then why 80% business are doing through GSPs when it can be done directly through GST and portal? Are there any issues? See, one of the reasons is that majority of the large businesses are using one or other GSP. If I may tell you what is a GSP in one word, it is like a national highway to the GST portal. So when we are a big truck, means big business, having thousands or lakhs of invoices to report every month. So generally we'll take highway only. We won't take different gullies or small routes. We won't take. So even on the highways we have to pay toll also. So even if we pay toll, we will directly reach Delhi in a easiest and earliest way. So that's why these GST Suvidha providers, they act as a kind of highways to access the portal. So as many are already using it, so naturally they are generating it through GSPs. So that is the only thing I can answer. Then can the buyers for supplies made by seller have access to IRN from GST IN? So in GST 2A, to the extent of invoice particulars are there, they will be reflecting in 2A, but entire invoice JSON access, it is not there as of now. So that is under examination how to give. So you'll be listening in future about, you'll be hearing about this in future. IRN code is mandatory on e-way bill from 1st January onwards. Yeah. So what NIC is doing on the e-way bill, IRN details are also being given, so that the officer also can readily access the e-way bill and the item details on the invoice. So in case of services, air tickets, we have to show only service charges, or we have to show along with the air ticket amount. So of course, this is a business related query. So whatever presently you are doing, you have to do in the e-invoicing scenario. There is no change. That's what I can say. Can the IRN code be generated on the e-way bill from the e-way bill portal itself? See, e-way bill portal presently is there for e-way bill only, and IRP is there to generate IRN. And the change that is going to come from 1st January is that those people who are mandated to generate IRN, so initially you have to generate IRN, then only you will be able to generate the connected e-way bill for the particular supplies. For example, B2B and exports are only covered under IRN. All other types of supplies you can happily generate e-way bill separately also. There is no bar on that. But for this B2B and these ones, the only route or the only way to generate e-way bill is through generating initially that IRN. So that is the change. E-invoices were generated through API and also generated through manually using schema template. For duplicate transactions, cancellation period is over. What is the solution? All transactions will have to be declared in GSTR1. Yeah, as I told, GSTR1 is the final place where you will be entering your final set of liabilities or supplies at the end of the tax period. So that is there you have to do. And also, whatever invoices you generated on the IRP, whether it is through API or whether it is through this one, offline utility. So anyway, once you generate, it is in your name. So all of them will come into your GSTR1. But in GSTR1, how to report in which table, which values are coming and sitting in which tables, whether they are accurate or appropriate or not, those things kindly you have to see it. The auto population facility is only a facility. So to ensure that everything is correct, lies with the taxpayer only. Recent GSTR 2A also showing IRN also. Will it lessen the burden of proof to the buyer to prove his ITC claim is genuine? Yes, IRN is mentioned in 2A also. So that is one of the reflection which we have added, one more column we have added in 2A. Can we try trial basis before registering on e-invoice site? Yes, there is a separate website called trial site. Maybe after 1st January, it won't be there. So there is one website, e-invoice1.gov.in. That is the e-invoice actual portal, which we are referring to as invoice registration portal. And there is another testing website, which is called trial. If you just put on the Google also e-invoice trial website, it will come. Both of them look like same only, but one is the testing site, one is the actual site. Whatever you generate on testing site is only a dummy. It doesn't have any legal basis. At the month end, we need to issue invoices for our RCM payments. So, of course, this question is not clear. So, the point is you can generate invoice anytime. For example, you can generate today. For example, you created an invoice in your system today. You can generate IRN today or at the end of the month. For example, you want to consolidate all the some 20 invoices in a week. So those 20 invoices, if you want, you can transmit at once to the portal through APIs, or you can take the help of that offline utility and all the 20 invoices, 20 rows, and upload once. Upload at once. So you will get all the IRNs. So any questions? Yeah.
You are asking one question, RCM payments. Are you talking about inward supply of RCM or outward supplies for RCM? If it is for outward supply, you need to generate the IRN, sir, as a supplier. If you're talking about inward supplies for your suppliers received from your GT or something, in that case, it is not required to generate IRN.
Yeah, I think we have answered most of the questions. So some of the questions I have already answered one-to-one, and also they are reflecting for everyone. So that also you can see. Just a second. This integration with banks and other threads which I talked about, that is only presently at examination stage. That has not yet come. And also when GSTN shares the data, or GSPs share the data of businesses to any other entities like banks, they will take due approvals from the business people, and then only they will share. Don't worry. It's all encrypted, and it is only consent-based sharing. It's not like because it is a data of trade confidence. So due care and those things will be taken care. And there is no validity period for generated IRN, that I already told. There is no validity period as such. The cancellation window is only 24 hours. And SEZ developers, some people have asked, SEZ developers are not exempt, only SEZ units are exempt. For example, under a single PAN, there are some units and some developers, for example. In that case, you see the aggregate turnover. If the aggregate turnover exceeds the prescribed limit, 500 crores or 100 crores, then you are supposed to do e-invoicing. But even then, for SEZ supplies, you need not issue e-invoices, because that is exempt ab initio, like that generation of invoices is not at all applicable to SEZ units. But if you have a question whether to start e-invoicing or not, then you take the aggregate turnover as the criteria. So some people asked where to download the Excel tool. I have given the URL on the e-invoice portal. There is a section called help. In that there is a sub tab called tools. In that you can generate it. So credit note generate on 30th November. You can generate the IRN anytime in future. Presently there is no link between both. Yeah, that's all. I think we are 6 minutes past 5 o'clock. So now over to the organizers.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for taking the detailed insights on legal provisions of e-invoicing, and Mr. Mallikarjuna Gupta for the implementation methods on e-invoicing. In fact, I hope it will enrich us, all the audience. In fact, there are two sides of the coin, sir, here. For those who have already implemented, they are getting the technical issues, and those for whom it's going to be implemented, they are having the basic questions like whether the digital signature is required. All those things are coming, sir. But nevertheless, as members proceed forward and they start doing it, then much more queries will be coming in. They can post the queries to us at FTCCCI, and we'll take them as indirect tax committee, whatever queries to them. Mr. Gupta has already shared the mobile number. You can send the queries to them. He's a part of the indirect tax committee member, and we thank our the participants for taking so much of time. And we have one more session on quarterly return filing and monthly payment taxes at 5:15. In fact, we couldn't make these two programs together for as the platform was different, and the links for that platform I have shared in the chat box. So members, I request all the members to join for that program. I'll just share it once again in the chat box. Okay, so there are two platforms. Either you can join with the Cisco WebEx links or the YouTube link, whichever is convenient to you. And the speaker is Srimati Mallikarjuna, IRF Chief Commissioner of Hyderabad GST and Customs Zone. So she will be taking on quarterly return filing and monthly payment of taxes scheme under GST. So I once again thank our speakers, Sri Ravi, Kiran, Edara ji, for taking the legal insights on the legal provisions, and Mallikarjuna Gupta, and all the members, and thank you one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much.